This week on the Athlete Lab podcast, we're joined by four-time Emmy winning broadcaster Devin Gardner. Devin was a 3-year starter at the University of Michigan, went on to play professional football, and now he has taken his perspective on being an elite athlete and made it into an elite broadcaster. Devin talks about how he prepared as a player, what he learned from being an exceptionally gifted young athlete, and what it took to kind of change that mindset on his day-to-day, and he's really used that in his broadcasting career. It's a really fascinating discussion on preparation, on day-to-day diligence, and also continuing to improve. Devin works with young athletes now to this day and has an extreme passion for all sports. It's a really good conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Athlete Lab podcast, where we talk about sports, athlete development, and then the science behind it. Today, we're super fortunate to have Michigan sports legend Devin Gardner join us today and talk about his career and what he's doing now. So thanks a lot for joining us, Devin.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I got a chance to see the facility. It's amazing. Very, very nice. Something I would work out of. It was very cool.
Yeah, it's definitely done a great job. You're referring to the Athlete Lab here in Farmington Hills, Michigan. We got a really cool environment where it's a lot of people who are just athlete-centered, aspire to play the sport at the highest level, and know that it takes a lot away from the field or away from the ice or the court. So it's cool. I'm glad you got to see it.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people ignore, right? They think well, I went to football practice or I went to basketball practice, and it's just like, I don't know if that's enough, especially in today's age where everybody's doing a little extra.
Right. Yeah. I think at one point it probably was enough.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what everybody did. But, as the sports evolve and everyone seems like they're bigger and they're faster and they're stronger. So there's a reason for it. It's not like they just woke up that way.
Yeah, now there are some people who are just very gifted and maybe they don't have to do the extra, but for the 99% of us normal humans, we got to do a little extra to make sure that we can even compete at that level.
Well, I would say there's a lot of people in that 99% that will put you in that gifted category. So, I mean, yeah. So, talk about, you have such a unique football experience. Let's talk about that. First of all, when you're at University of Michigan, everyone in our state knew who you were. You kind of came onto the scene. Like, walk me through how that is. You get to school. How does it work, like with the positioning and all that, and to end up how you did?
Well, so it was kind of a unique experience, like you said, for me. I remember the first time I touched a football, like 6 years old, I was really good, right? So I was 6 years old. I played on an 8-year-old team. Like 4 is the birth certificate, so I will be old enough to play, right? Usually you see people kind of trying to cheat and make a guy younger than he is, but we did it to make me older so I can play. And so I got a lot of accelerated experiences with guys that are older or kids that are older. And as I grew up, I kind of stayed in that kind of path of I'm a little younger than everyone else, but I'm still kind of excelling. And I think that really accelerated my development. And so having that experience of being really good from the very start and working hard, but knowing whether I worked hard or not, I would be a lot better than a lot of the kids around, right? And I was relatively mature as a kid to understand that kind of thing. And it didn't really click for me that I needed to really, really do extra until as a sophomore, I went to the Elite 11 as they call it a ball boy, which was like you filled up the Gatorade coolers, different things like that, but then you could compete with the guys that were actually competing to win the Elite 11. And the Elite 11 is a quarterback competition that, all around the country they know, and it's pretty much every quarterback's dream to compete in it and win it. So I was able to go as a ball boy. They invited 3 underclassmen, and that experience kind of shifted the way I looked at, preparation and becoming a great athlete, because when you're growing up in Michigan, it's such a small area, right? And as much as we love sports, it's just not as big as it is other places, right? Texas, California, even Ohio right down the street, right? It's kind of a huge deal, especially when I was growing up. And so you don't see many other athletes, right? You think that, you're the hottest thing smoking. There's nothing like you, And then you go to competitions like this and you see, wait a minute, there are other humans that not only are like me and similar in talent, but they are actually better, right? And I was kind of real with myself. I've always been that way, where, I can look at someone and say, hey, yeah, they're better than me right now, but my confidence says that I will eventually catch them. You know what I mean? So, but being at the Elite 11, it really gave me a new sense of like appreciation for hard work and understanding that it's not enough what I'm doing right now. And so, with no quarterback coach and different things like that, everything I learned, I took it back, did it every single day, went to school at 6 a.m. to work out before school. I probably should have showered a little more than I did, after those workouts, but I was pretty singularly focused in being the number one quarterback in the country. And so moving forward and realizing all these dreams, being a part of the Elite 11 as a competitor, being the number one dual threat quarterback in the country and things like that, you get to Michigan and it's kind of an earthquake in your life because I've never been second string in my life, And at this point, I'm competing with two other guys who had already been there, right? Denard Robinson and Tate Forsythe, who very talented, different, but very talented. Tate Forsythe just bred to be a quarterback from birth. And Denard Robinson, that 1%, right? The freakiest athlete that I've ever been around up close. And so I competed hard and I didn't win the job and I wasn't good enough. And this was the first time for me in my life where I truly wasn't good enough. And the other guy was much better, right? There was no politics. There was none of that stuff. It was the fact that he was a better football player than me and better for the team at that time. So it was a very rude awakening for me. And I almost had to draw back to the experience of going to the 11 and understanding that there are other humans that work hard and there are other humans that were blessed just like you were physically and all those different things. And it really taught me a lot about being a person, right? And so I'm a little biased, but I believe football is the greatest teacher of life. And the ups, the downs, the successes, and in one play you could have the worst play of your life, you got the greatest play, all those different things, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of the football experience, especially becoming a quarterback. I just think it teaches you so much about life, and I'm so thankful for all the things that happened to me throughout my career. And honestly, they didn't happen to me; they happened for me.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot there. So I want to quickly. So you're a sophomore in high school, and you go to that Elite 11, and you see these kids who are working harder. Mm-hmm. What sort of things were they testing? Is it just, are you just throwing? Is there like other off ice testing? You're like, well, I'm not as strong or I'm not as fast.
So I wouldn't say. I mean, maybe they were working harder, but the experience was. It's a competition for quarterbacks, right? So you're dropping, you're throwing, doing all the different necessary skills to show that you're a great quarterback and the things you need to do that would allow you to be successful at the next level. And so for me, I didn't have a quarterback coach, right? And so when I get there, all these other kids who are from California, Texas, different places, they've had quarterback coaches, right? So they understand how to do things that I just have never learned, right? And so it was just like, I am so far behind. I just could not believe that I was so far behind. Not any fault of my own, but now it is my own fault if I don't catch up. You know what I mean? So all the things I learned, I just took it back and just did all those things over and over and over again tirelessly to make sure that I could at least close the gap, right? At some point, I'll get great coaching and different things like that. But at this moment in high school, right, I don't have the resources to afford a private quarterback coach or different things like that. So everything I learned, right, to close the gap, I did it every single day, 6 o'clock in the morning. My godfather would pick me up, take me to school. He was a security guard to school, let me in. I would throw to him and his hands were all red. And, I would do all these different drills that I learned. And it really helped. It really helped because if I hadn't had that experience, I would have just gone through life thinking that I was plenty good and I would work hard, right? But I wouldn't work strategically hard, right? I would just be working super hard, but I wouldn't be kind of fine tuning the things that are going to make me successful and allow me to ultimately realize my dream.
Boy, what a comment. Work strategically hard because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily just putting in that running. And
like if I'm a quarterback, I shouldn't be bench pressing all the time. You know what I mean? I'm working hard, right? I'm doing everything that I know to do. However, that's not conducive to the success of the thing that I want to do specifically, right? So I think that is a huge thing for athletes to be strategic in the way that you work and not just working hard, hammering your head up against the wall, and ultimately it'll be to no avail.
Yeah, and it's good for coaches to hear too, because you need your athletes to work strategically.
Coaches are just former athletes,
right?
We don't know anything either. You know what I mean? So it's really cool that you see a lot of coaches that are going into the science of things and understanding that if I have a lift group of football players, and I don't know how it is in hockey, but if I have a lift group of football players, my defensive tackle should not be doing the same thing as my quarterback all the time. Now, there are some team building things and toughness development type of things that you do, but once, especially you get closer to a season, you should be strategic in making sure that each individual person or position group has what they need to be successful. And for a defensive tackle and a quarterback, it's vastly different.
Right, and that makes complete sense. And I think that it's the same from what I go see, it's the same in baseball.
Yeah.
Like pitchers and catchers, they're arriving earlier. They're doing things differently than, what the outfielders are doing. And, same in hockey. That's just how it is. Soccer, I think, is, it's the exact same thing. There's
a lot of the same stuff.
Right, exactly. Where you have to do, but you have to train strategically. I think that's really, really well done. So you talk about when you get to Michigan.
Yeah.
And all right, your great high school career. You're from Detroit. You go to Ann Arbor. You're
Great hope.
Yeah, exactly. You're like you living at least half the people in the state's dream. To get to go there. And when you find that out, how is that mentally to deal with when you're there and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I'm second string, and
not even, but yeah.
And then even recognizing not only I love that you said it wasn't political.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times young athletes
they blame others.
Yeah. Right. Which just the fact that you took accountability at that point, at that age, it says a heck of a lot about you. But how did you seek out a coach to talk to about it mentally? Was it something that, you mentioned your godfather had been a bit of a mentor in your high school? How did you kind of get through that and just be able to stay focused?
Well, I've told this before. Denard Robinson was super instrumental, and he's the person that was deterring me from my dream, right? He is the guy he's the reason I wasn't able to realize my dream as quickly as I wanted to. But he was so instrumental in making sure that my heart and my mind stayed locked into what I was trying to do, as he was also competing against me fiercely, right? So we were fierce competitors, right? There's a time where he's a better athlete than me. I want to say that very clearly. However, I can compete, right? And so we were going back and forth because at quarterback, you can't directly compete with another quarterback, right? You can throw throws and different things like that, but it's not that combat that you grow up doing with another human, like a receiver and a DB, they can duke it out. A quarterback, you can't really do that, right? And so I remember one night, we would stay out in the building working as hard as we could all night, and we get into an argument about who's a better athlete. And in the back of my mind, you're faster, but I think I'm a little bit of a better athlete, and so we ended up doing one-on-ones where he played corner and I played wide receiver, which neither of us do. And I played corner and he played wide receiver, which neither of us do. Obviously, later on, we would eventually test those things out. But at this time, we were just quarterbacks, but we wanted to prove to each other, and really it was me to myself, that I am a better athlete than this man, right? And so we're going through all this, and it got so heated that he scratched he had these long nails. He scratched me all down my neck, because we were just competing. And the funny story about that is we lived together, and I had to drive him home, and we had to drive home together, and it was all good. But that was the type of competitive fire that we had together. And I tell you that to say, even with that, he still did everything he could to make sure I was ready for when my time came. Now, was he comfortable giving it to me? Absolutely not, right? He wanted to do everything that he wanted to do as well, but he left no stone unturned as he kind of helped me navigate through a really tough time for myself, and I'm forever grateful for him.
Wow, sounds amazing. That competitive nature, first of all, that's the more and more I talk to elite athletes and I've been around them, that's
fire-breathing dragon. You have to be.
Exactly. And those that make it and really do get to the highest levels, they all have 100%. That, which is, any way coaches can develop that or players when they feel it, they need to embrace it, not back away from it.
100%. People joke about, if my grandma was out there, I would destroy her too. And it's just that's a joke, but fierce competitors mean that, right? If my grandma just happens to be on another team, I'm sorry, grandma, I love you, and we'll go to dinner later, but I have to finish you.
Yeah, and the fact that analogy even comes to your mind shows you the competitor.
Yeah, of course.
So we talked a little bit about the science of it. When you got to school, in one of the obviously highly funded institutions, most prominent program, it's the biggest part of Michigan in a lot of ways. What type of things were going on there where they were trying to get the edge that might have been that more strategic development away from what the normal, kind of the normal training would be? Well,
a lot of strength coaches have different philosophies, right? And I was fortunate enough to have two different strength coaches with two different, complete different styles, where Mike Barwis was a Olympic style lifter, right? He'd do all these crazy things to make you explosive, but also functionally strong. And then Aaron Wellman came, and he was more just powerful, just super powerful. Obviously, they both want you to be in great shape, but just kind of different. And for me, once I became the quarterback, once I became the starter, a man who he was the mind person for a lot of different people, Russell Wilson, and honestly credit a lot of Russell Wilson's decline because of the loss of Trevor Moawad. He died recently, right before Russ started to transition to different teams and different things like that. And he was the person he leaned on, and he was also that person for me while I was at Michigan and when I was a starter, because so many things happen that are outside your control. And as much as physically you need to be gifted and you need to work hard and different things like that, I think the thing that's kind of ignored is working as hard on your mind and how you think about not only the situations, but how you think about yourself. Because like you said, a program like Michigan, if things aren't going perfectly, and I mean perfectly, like you could win by 30 and they'll still have issues, people, fans, you know? So if things aren't going perfectly, which that's impossible, it will be a rough time, whether it's on social media, even in public. Sometimes people get really courageous. And so dealing with all of that, and you know, as the quarterback, you have to make sure you take responsibility no matter what. No matter whose fault it is, it's your fault publicly, right? And so that was something that I took a lot of pride in. Even though a lot of times, right, you throw interceptions or different things like that, a receiver runs the wrong way or they don't block or whatever happens, right, I took a lot of pride in making sure I put it all on me, because we did have a relatively young team when I was a quarterback, and it backfired just because it created this kind of narrative that, well, you're the problem. You know what I mean? And it was so disappointing because even some of the coaches who knew what the actual issues were, they kind of looked at it as that as well. And it's just like, wait, you guys understand that I'm trying to be the leader that, you know, you're supposed to be. And Trevor Moawad was so helpful in making sure that I wasn't deterred from my goals and different things like that, or down on myself, or change the opinion I had of myself because of whatever the coaches were thinking and whatever the outside noise was thinking. So it was very instrumental to have him. And I think every team, especially for the quarterback, needs a guy to kind of frame things so that the quarterback doesn't get down on himself because of mistakes or whatever the case may be.
So when you've got this mentorship relationship, somebody that, first of all, taking accountability for that it's incredible. That's how it should be, and it's too bad that, like, I have heard some of the Michigan fans, though, they are relentless on it.
Yeah, but the thing is, they don't know what's going on. They're not studying the film or anything like that. So whatever you say, they take it. It's like, well, it must be your fault, every single thing, which, you know, you got to be a special, tough kind of guy. And I've always thought of myself as mentally tough. So it bothered me and I was able to, I lost confidence, different things like that, something I had never experienced. Like, being a confident person your entire life and then losing confidence, even for just a moment, is the most demoralizing thing on the planet. And it's tough to deal with, but Trevor Moawad was super helpful.
That's great. Did Trevor give you was it more of just a give and take conversation thing, or did he give you actual tools like visualization, breathing? Was it like a lot?
It was a lot of breathing, visualization, and he would, every game, before the game, we would have a session. He would put a video together, whether it be with a Kobe Bryant or somebody speaking life into different situations, and then it will finish with like my highlights of how great I had been throughout my career to that point. And it's like a reminder of, like, whatever anybody else thinks, it doesn't matter. First of all, it's none of your business what they think. And you should always remember, like, this is you, like, because, you know, if you lose confidence, you can forget, like, wait, I'm the guy that threw for 500 yards. That was me that did that. You know what I mean? I'm the guy that, you know, ran for all, you know what I mean? It just kind of reminds you and puts you in that space of, like, I'm doing just fine. And obviously you can always be better, but it's never nearly as bad as you think it is, and it's never nearly as good.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it. Like, seeing yourself actually do it. That makes the visualization a lot
It's
better.
weird, but you forget what you were able to do. And once you get that tangible visual, now the visualization becomes very, very easy.
Touch on something where it's nobody's business what they think of.
Yeah.
What they think of.
Oh, I live by it.
Well, it's great.
Whatever people think of you is none of your business.
Right. Doesn't matter. Yeah, you hope that they keep that to themselves too.
But they don't.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, of course.
So when you're playing and now you establish yourself, you're a leader on the team. A lot of dynamics within a football team and just the size of the football team.
Of course.
How do you handle that in leadership with taking accountability? You mentioned wins and losses, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
Throughout the season, like what were some of the things you learned in leadership in your junior and senior years?
Well, you firstly have to be a bit of a chameleon, right? Just because a locker room has so many different personalities, right? You've got the farmers, right? You got the hunters. You've got the guys who just want to go to the club, right? You got the guys that drink a lot. You got the guys who will never touch alcohol. You've got guys who are Christians. You got Muslim. You got different perspectives on life, and it's really difficult to navigate. And that's why, as much as the linebacker's really tough, and the running back and the defensive lineman, all these guys, the toughest player on the field is the quarterback, easily. Because it's not just a physical toughness where you're always in a compromised position. You really can't ever protect yourself. But mentally, you have to do so much. And like I said, football is the greatest teacher of life, but quarterback is even better. Just because that's how life is, right? You're going to experience many people. You're going to have to work with different people. And we all have a job to do, right? And so if you're able to compartmentalize and put different things to the side and understand what the job is, and we can all use that as our common goal and get on the same page, I think that's the most amazing and beautiful thing that there is about sports, where you can get on the same page with a guy who has complete opposite views of what you believe. And I've kind of carried that through my life now. My partner now, Tim Brando, a great guy, love him to death. He's the complete opposite of me in every single way, right? And we work so well together. Right. So that's just something I learned at playing at the high level as a quarterback. And I've been able to use it all the way through and take me to where I am today.
Yeah, no, that transition, well, it's such a great point. Like the variety of people you're around, and that's life. That's really cool. So you play pro for a few years, and then you decide to kind of transition. What was that process like, and getting back into the sport in different areas?
Yeah, it was easy for me, but it was also hard at the same time, right? Because with the Steelers, I got hurt in our first game, and I'd never really truly been hurt except one time in my entire life, and it was in the last game of the season, so it didn't matter. I was healthy to play the next season, but I never truly missed many games. And so after the injury with the Steelers, I was out for a year of not playing football, the first time in my life since I was 6 years old, which was devastating for me. And so it was an opportunity for me to continue to understand who I was, and I learned that already. I had started that process, which I'm so thankful for, when I graduated early and started my social work degree in grad school, right? So I started that, and that it was then that I kind of learned that my heart is for others, right? And specifically kids, right? Helping kids and helping them realize their dreams, give them kind of a MapQuest, people remember MapQuest. You have to print out the directions, before all the navigation. Like, give them the kind of MapQuest so they can avoid some of the potholes and different things that I experienced, while still being able to enjoy playing football and things like that. And so I played a year in Japan, actually 2 years in Japan, came back to this side of the water and played in Canada. And all the while I had started working with a group of kids, just kind of doing what I said, like helping them to avoid the potholes and teaching them different skills and pretty much giving them something that I didn't truly have that's specific to helping them become a quarterback mentally and physically. And it became a point that I thought my purpose in life was to do this, and my purpose in life as a football player has been completed, if you will. And so that was kind of a rough decision for me, but I just knew what my heart was, like helping these kids was something that I really enjoyed. So, I'm working with these kids, and it's just like, I decided that I'm not going to play football anymore. Now, when you start to look back, it's like, well, was it the right decision? And for me right now, sitting here, it was the perfect decision. But at the time, it was a little back and forth of like, I still got a lot of gas in the tank. I'm still one of the better athletes in the world, I would think. And I'm just hanging it up right now. And it at the time was maybe not the smartest decision because I didn't have a job, right? I had some money left and whatever, but I didn't have a job. And I'm doing this, free of charge, just helping these kids and different things like that. And it was a man named Jeff Bile who called me one day. I'm sitting on the couch kind of trying to figure out, okay, this is my purpose and this is what I want to do, but I'm also a grown up and I have to like pay bills and different things like that, you know? He called me, he said, hey, you want to come down and do the Prep Kickoff Classic and, you know, do some stuff on TV for the football game. And I'm like, you know, I kind of gave him the like, oh yeah, let me check my schedule. I was so free. I didn't have anything else to do. You know what I mean? So I did that. And from there, I found another passion, and it's just like, man, this is awesome. I could really, you know, and I treated every single game like it was a Super Bowl and continued to develop. And that landed me with the opportunity at Fox. And I've kind of just kept going forward from there.
So you talk about when you stop playing, and, you know, the game sometimes tells us it's time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to make that mature decision. You still obviously had gas in the tank.
Yeah.
When you get back that next year, when was there that time like that you either said this is always going to be for me, or did you ever like waver and think about coming back and playing because of your ability? You know, you could have gone back to the CFL perhaps, or gone back to Europe.
Yeah. It's really tough just because you watch others who, you know, aren't as talented and can't make these throws or do these, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I can do that. So that's tough. That's really tough. The only thing that kind of saved me from being so in and out was just watching how the kids that I was working with were developing. All right, they were really becoming like these great quarterbacks, and not only just great quarterbacks, right? I would have these conversations with their parents. It's like, yeah, he's doing his own laundry. Like he's doing all these different things, because it wasn't just about football, right? It was about who you are and how that can help you become a great quarterback and a great football player. And so they were having all these developments in so many areas, including football, right? I feel like football was just a residual effect, right? You were just getting good at football because of the things we were doing to make you a great human. And it just was like, this is so fulfilling that scoring touchdowns feels good. I'm just telling you, It does. It feels really good. Throwing touchdowns, running touchdowns, right? You know, stiff arming a guy, just sliding out of bounds, you know, all those different things are really cool. But I'd never had this sensation close in football, but I had never had this sensation of like, man, this is something that I can take credit for, of like, I've really helped these young people become what they dream of becoming. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, to have that kind of impact, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's really fulfilling, and literally that's the only thing that stopped me from, you know, because when you were out of football and you go back in, people are going to continue to give you chances, right? And so you're going to fly here, you're going to fly there, you're going to try out there, and all these different things, and it's exhausting, but it's because you love it, you want to keep doing it. And I was almost saved by these kids of not having to do that. It's awesome. It's still been awesome, right? They're grown. A lot of them are grown up and, you know, are grown ups now, but it's been a really cool experience.
So talk a little bit more about that, the Young Go-Getters program, right? Yeah. So what does that make up? How does it all work?
Well, I mean, honestly, there is no, you know, people like, hey, how do I sign up? There is no sign up sheet. I don't invite people because, you know, when you invite kids to come work with you, especially in today's age where kids are viral and they're very talented and they have no idea what's outside. You know what I mean? It comes with a set of expectations of, well, I should be treated differently. You invited me here, right? And, you know, kids have a kind of a sense of entitlement these days where they believe that, you know, it's all about them, and Young Go-Getters is literally about everybody else, right? And so that's what I try to teach them, and I'm very hard on them I've had kids that had to do punishment during workouts because they weren't able to do something for others outside of the program, right? So it was a kind of a thing we were going through, and we still do it, but it's just natural to them now of, what have you done for someone outside of yourself and outside of somebody you can benefit from, right? So doing your laundry, cleaning your room, getting the door for your mom, that doesn't count. Those are things that are expected you should do. What have you done outside of that, right, at school, and not something for your friends, right? The kid who nobody's talking to and is kind of down, you can kind of feel his energy. What have you done to help him to have a better day, right? Different things like that. And so I challenge them to do that, and it's just all a chance to make them a better person, which, like we talked about earlier, going back to the different personalities, right? Now you can connect with many different people rather than just your friends or just your posse or your clique or whatever the case may be.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible to have these kids obviously look.
That's why we can't get a lot of kids. It just won't work because parents want their kids to be professional athletes, and that's it. And that's just not what it's about for me.
Yeah, my kids you'd lose them at laundry, but
Yeah,
I'm still sending them to you. So
Yeah.
I only need to find that sign-up sheet that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that sounds incredible and had that kind of impact. And I think that playing sports at a high level is such a privilege, and the fact that you've used your privilege for that good is awesome. It says a lot.
That's how I always thought of it. It's a privilege to get a chance to do all these different things because, you know, I could have easily not been tall. I could have easily not have had a competitive fire, a competitive juice, right? Some people just don't have that. And I was able to have that. And I just know that it's a blessing. And I'm still able to, you know, pass that blessing along to others.
Yeah, that's cool. So you move into you've been incredible in broadcasting.
Oh, thank you. Incredible. Maybe a reach. Hey, guys, listen to nothing he says, obviously, but thank you. I appreciate that.
It's a lot harder there than it seems, you know, and it's easy for everyone on the chair.
Don't worry. I know people are like, man, I could do that. Maybe we'll see.
So how has that been? You know, people you've had a chance to work with. You know, what have you kind of learned on that? Being on that side of it,
it's been awesome. Like I said, my partner right now is Tim Brando, and my partner before that is Eric Collins. And Eric Collins is a guy who he does the Hornets, right? He has all these crazy calls like, oh my God, like he loses his mind all the time, right? So that was my football partner, which is pretty cool because, you know, he had gone viral a bunch and, you know, everybody thought they really didn't know who he was, but they just know the Hornets announcer kind of thing. So that was really cool to call games with him. And then I was able to be moved up to one of the higher crews with Fox and Tim Brando, where a lot of people know that name. Everybody knows that name. They know that voice. He was in the SEC for a very long time, right? He used to do college. He was the first host for College Game Day. He's had some really cool experiences. And getting a chance to work with him has been really, really beneficial for me. And I just think that my ascent has been a result of hard work, just like in football, right? So where I would go early in the morning, like I talked about earlier, after the Elite 11 experience to work and do all these things early in the morning before school. Well, it's the same for me now where after my games on Saturday, right, you know, I rest on Sunday, and then on Monday, Jeff Bile, who gave me my first shot, I go to his house and we watch film, and he basically just tells me how bad I am. So I appreciate that you think I'm so good, right? He just tells me how bad I am and where I could be better. Generally, no positive feedback, honestly, which is cool. I don't need that, right? Because everybody says it's all good. And so and that's what I've done since the first game, right? My first game was the Anchor Bone Trophy between Grand Valley and Ferris State. And from that day, I've done that. And it's really accelerated my ability to call games, see things faster, and just improve as a person that calls games, right? And so my idea of a person that's perfect at calling games is when I'm calling the game, anybody can understand what I'm talking about. I'm not talking over anybody's head, but I'm not talking solo that, you know, it's annoying to somebody that is a little more intelligent about football. And it's just fun for everybody to enjoy and digest. And so that's kind of my goal every single week. And I've really gotten a grasp on how to do that. And I'm always improving.
Well, and the fact that you're going to sit and watch, I mean, a little bit of positive feedback would be nice from him on Monday mornings for you, but like, that you're willing to go there and work.
And I know what it's going to be every time. It's annoying.
Yeah.
He's just going to say how bad I was the whole time, but it's cool.
Well, if you ever need more, you let us know. So we think you're doing a great job there, but like just the fact that you're doing that. Yeah. And you know that you have to reflect. That says something about, you know, just athlete mentality. Yeah. That you can always get better at that sort of thing. I think sometimes from the outside looking in, people might think that broadcasters are just, you know, showing up, talking about the game, and then flying home. No, it's not.
Well, so just a little bit of, you know, I got Kansas, Fresno State, week 0, right? And so that's basically 5 days away. It's on Saturday, and so a week ago, I went and spent 3 days with Kansas program in preparation for this, right? So this has been a 2-week process of me preparing, and I'm still in that preparation process where I'm watching film and talking to coaches and having meetings and different things like that to prepare for one day, right? 3 or 4 hours where, you know, you sit and watch for 3 hours or however long it is, but I've been preparing for a very long time. And it really honestly started even before last week, right? Understanding what the teams are and their roster. And it's even more difficult in today's game because every single team has different players. This player was this school, now he's at this school, 4 schools in 4. You know what I mean? So it's relatively difficult, but that's not an excuse because I have a job to do, right? And so that's the mentality I've always had as a player, and it's really helped me now because there's no excuses as to why you can't do your job well, right? You have the opportunity, and I just think everybody should do their job.
So you touched on something there. I was going to ask you about that. It's hard to track players where, when you were playing, you would know.
4 years. He's a freshman here. He's a senior. You know what I mean?
Right. The only way it wasn't they had a red shirt and that was it. So now when you talk to these coaches and you reflect back, like how much different do you think it would be? Like, players can do whatever they want, you know? Has that helped college football? Is the level better? What's your thought of the current landscape?
So like anything, there's a lot of positives and there's a lot of negatives, right? Hopefully you hope, you pray that most things are more positives than negatives, but it can be even sometimes, but there are still positives, even though, the old guard of college football fans are like, oh, I hate this, you know what I mean? But there are a lot of positives and I'll kind of try to outline those. But the negatives for me are all the things that I've benefited from. The ability to be in a situation that is not right going your way and to stick it out and figure it out and look yourself in the mirror and understand what you can do better rather than pointing the finger at other people and saying what they can do better to help you, right? Taking that ownership and it's really transitioned me into life much better. And a lot of times football players don't transition in life very well, or any athlete for that matter, because of that accountability that's not taken. And so with the new era of college football, that's been stripped, right? That kind of accountability. And when I was a player, coaches, they would just like make up stuff to put you in the doghouse, right? And it's just like, at the time as a young player, I didn't understand, like, why are you messing with me? Like, you know what I mean? Why are you making things up? You know what I mean? And as you get older, you understand that they're taking you through a tempering process, right? And so the tempering process is the process in which metal becomes as hard as it can possibly be, and they put it under the highest temperature, right, to make it hard. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's what it is, right? When they're making up things and the politics, if you will, it's kind of that tempering process to not only get you ready for the game and the fire that is hot when you're in front of 100,000 people, but also as you continue to grow through life, you get a chance to learn how to be resilient and different things like that. So that's something that I think is lost because the kid will just leave. Yeah. Right. The kid will just leave. That's the negative. The kid will just leave. And when you leave, you don't truly get a fresh start. Your problems follow you. If you don't change the things that are kind of holding you back, you don't have a real opportunity, no matter where you go. And you'll just keep suffering from the same thing, and that's demoralizing because now you become a citizen in the world in those same issues. You haven't resolved them because you were able to just run away. That's the negative. Now, the positive is, first of all, the landscape of college football, there is no Bama's just going to dominate every single team. They're going to lose to Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt also now has good players, and Bama doesn't have 3 rows of players who will never get a chance. You know what I mean? These talented, amazing players that never really get a chance to show. And so you get an opportunity when you see the writing on the wall, right? If I'm a defensive end and I have 4 defensive ends in front of me, but I'm a talented player, I can go play somewhere, right? I don't have to sit here, hope for people to get hurt, right? And different things like that. I can go participate on a team and be a contributor and have a real chance, right? And so I think it's really even the playing field and giving guys real opportunities, right? Think of a Joe Burrow who's at Ohio State who is buried. He will not play. He gets a chance to go to LSU, learn, develop, and become a really amazing player, amazing quarterback. And obviously there are a lot of different scenarios like that all around the country. One in particular is a kid for Kansas right now. I won't say his name right now, but he was at Tennessee Chattanooga. Good player. His dad played in the NFL, got great pedigree, but he's at Tennessee Chattanooga, right? He's just a guy, and he actually played well, but he's 6'5", 6'6", 235. Like he shouldn't be at Tennessee Chattanooga, right? But for whatever reason, he falls through the cracks. And so now he's at Kansas and he's gained 20 pounds because of the resources that are at Kansas that aren't at Tennessee Chattanooga. And he's really become a player now. Does he have to prove it on the game day? Absolutely. But to this point, they're very happy with his development. And now he has at least a chance to become the player that he was destined to be. Whereas at Tennessee Chattanooga, just because of their resources, he just won't have that chance to become everything he can possibly be. And I think that's the real positive, right? You get a chance to, if you fall through the cracks and you have to go to a MAC school or even a Division II school, right? You play well and you have a chance to move up and show the country and really show yourself what you really got.
Yeah, no, I agree with both sides of that. You can look at it from the positive way.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the positive, the games are better.
Yeah.
More
competitive.
Right. And as a fan, we just have to study a little bit more before the season starts.
100%. Work a little harder. You got to figure out who your guys are.
Exactly. You can't just blindly like the team for who they are, you know? So that's no, it's good. It's good to hear your perspective because from the outside looking in, you kind of wonder, and you hear from different coaches in college sports that the coaches they're quick to complain about the trials and
I really hope they stop.
Yeah,
they've been getting paid a lot of money to coach football, and as much as that's pressure as well, they should stop that.
Yeah.
They should stop complaining about anything, I think.
Yeah, well, it's just a new challenge for them.
Yeah,
and it's something that it's real,
and it's so odd because coaches expect players to accept these challenges and just go through it and not complain. Now one challenge is thrown at these coaches and they have begun to complain. That's odd. Very odd.
Especially they're the ones who've been talking about battling through adversity for all these years.
All these years you've been telling me to battle through adversity. Now we take your fourth defensive end and you're upset. You're upset. Yeah. What?
Trying to look in the mirror.
You got 2 All-Americans still, but you... okay, I guess.
Oh, we can go on for a while.
Man.
So so you get this access to these schools, and you're getting to know these people, ask questions, get to know players. From a development standpoint, what have you seen schools do? And you don't have to share the school that maybe they're tracking something, maybe they're doing cognitive development. Have you seen anything really unique that you think is a separator?
In this age, obviously, you got the heart monitors, you got all this fancy technology, all of that stuff. That's across all of high level Division I. Everybody has those things. But the teams I think that are going to do the best, right? And I would use Texas A&M as a bad example, where they, paid a bunch of players, got a bunch of really good players, right? But I would imagine they didn't do the work of finding out who they were as people and how they integrate into their locker rooms, right? And so you get all these 5 stars, all this money shelled out for Texas A&M a few years ago, and they're awful at football. How? How does that happen with all these good players and everybody's getting paid? Obviously Jimbo Fisher loses his job. They bring in Elko, who was at Duke. Different situation where you can't just pay everybody. You got to really coach. You got to really develop, and you got to be strategic about who you get based on their personality and how it's going to affect your locker room. And they're a much better team. I think that the teams and the coaches and the programs that are vetting these kids or young men properly, understanding their personalities, no matter, obviously their talent is important. However, a talented guy who is not good for your locker room is probably an alpha, and he'll be an alpha and a leader in the wrong direction. And so now you lose your team, and if you lose your team, you lose your job. It's a really bad trickling effect. And so I just love to see the coaches that are doing it the right way and not taking kids who have all these issues, right? And not necessarily all these issues, but just understanding the personalities of the kids and if they can gel with the people in your locker room. And the best way I think to do that is to have them hang around the players in your locker room, right? Let them be a part of the decision to understand, like, yeah, this is not our type of guy, right? Not our type of guy, or this is our type of guy. He may not be the best player in the world. However, we can help him. We can coach him to another level, and he's going to be a great guy in the locker room. I think that's a plus.
Yeah, like the cultural aspect. Yeah, so rare.
A lot of times it's being forgotten, but I think that's so important.
And it's hard because if you start moving kids in and out, they don't have that. We came to freshman orientation together, or we're kind of growing up.
The shared suffering, right?
Right.
When I was at Michigan, we got a chance to go to Coronado Island and do Navy SEALs training, and the whole thing about the Navy SEALs and military in general. It's shared suffering, right? Obviously, this is hard. Obviously, we're all freshmen and we don't know where our classes are, and we're really struggling mentally. And now they want us to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and work out. And then I got to go to class. They want me to stay awake or I'm going to get in trouble for falling asleep. And then I got to go to practice. And then I got to study these plays. But I also have to study my stuff for school. It's just so much. But you're not alone, right? Everybody's having the same experience, the same shared suffering. And so it allows it to be a little bit easier for you, right? Still difficult. But now you understand, like, hey, he's suffering just like me, and what's going to put me forward? Like, am I going to quit, right, and let everybody down, or am I going to continue to push forward? And not only that, help other people that are struggling as well. I think that's something that you just can't replace. You can't manufacture that, and that is being lost a bit with guys in and out and going to different schools.
Right, just gives the coaches an opportunity. How are they gonna manufacture that?
Yeah,
each on a year-to-year basis. Yeah, and it's good to look at that from a team perspective, because what you just described, you guys are growing as a team, but each individual person is going to be more prepared for life.
Oh yeah,
which is part of the reason that families put in so much for their children to play and use sports. But that's the payoff.
Yeah,
if they're like you and they follow in your footsteps and reach the highest levels, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But there's so much to be learned from the team environment.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's really lost, especially in Little League football and, Little League basketball, because with the internet, you create these stars that have done nothing. Right. And, you won your 10-year-old championship and you're the national champion. I get it. It means nothing.
Yeah. Well,
there's nobody walking around and saying, hey, man, you remember in 2002? I was 10 in 2002.
Yeah.
Remember 2002? You won that city championship? Nobody cares. Right. And so it's great. And you celebrate those successes. But I don't think there's any reality as much as it should be of like, yeah, this is great, but there's so much more to do. Right. There's so much more work to be put in. And the internet has made stars out of individuals, and it's really put a lot of pressure on them that they probably weren't ready for at that time. And by that, you can't find out what that person would have been, because he's been dealing with so many different things mentally and the pressure of becoming the greatest he can possibly be at 12, which is ridiculous. If you're the greatest you're going to be at 12, that's a problem.
Right, yeah,
it's not
exactly.
good, right? It wants to be a slow burn, right? You want to continue to get better. And once you reach that pinnacle, you should be at the best. And a lot of parents and young athletes are looking for that microwave, I'm the best I was going to be right now. And I just think that's not conducive to success in getting out of football or different sports. What you should get out, which is becoming the best person you can be so that you can live your life. Most of us will not go pro in our sport, but we have to go pro in something else.
Right. No, that's a great message. I hope a lot of parents listen to it. And that's, there's a lot of value in kind of evaluating the sports and experience on that from that microscope. Yeah. So that's good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come here. I know you got a lot of prep for next weekend. We'll be watching. Yeah. And I won't be critical. I'll be enjoying watching.
Oh, thank God. I need somebody to be nice to.
Awesome. All right. Good. Well, thanks a lot for coming.
All right. Appreciate you.
Likewise.